Hello and welcome to this video webinar on security in the cloud. I'm here with Akamai's Director of Security Technology and Strategy for EMEA, Richard Meas. He's an expert in the field and works with Akamai to provide a global cloud platform to stop attacks at the edge before they reach organizations' apps, infrastructure and people. I wanted to start off by asking, should securing cloud assets be treated differently to on-premise assets?
I think the basic tenets of securing any asset remain the same, whether they be in the cloud or whether they be on-premise. You still need to understand the core components of the asset, who needs access to it, what needs access to it, and how to secure that and apply principles of least privilege. I think what happens when you start putting things in the cloud is that there is a greater requirement for fluidity, for scalability, and as organizations embark on a digital transformation strategy, be it cloud first, web first, whatever, or mobile first, they need to build in that scalability and also the ability to move their assets between clouds. So I think that it's more about thinking about the future to be able to create an overarching single security policy they can put in front of all of their assets that allows them to move them between on-prem and different cloud providers as seamlessly as possible.
Okay. What then is the best way to scale on-premise solutions to match the cloud?
Well, I think with on-premise solutions, what you're trying to do, you don't want to get in a situation where you're trying to cookie cut an on-prem schema and put that into the cloud with your security products, because you're going to end up scaling very quickly and it becomes unmanageable. So I think what you want to try and do, again, is go back to that, sort of have that single cloud that is able to, single cloud security layer, that is able to sit in front of all of your assets and augment the on-premise security that you've built up, and maybe have specific security spots elsewhere, but you basically offset and abstract all of the main security issues out to a single security policy that has allowed you to do the scalability. Example would be a flash crowd that happened in Singapore a few years ago, where an ATM had a skimmer put onto it, and it was being used to capture money, and on social media very, very quickly it got out that $1 million had been stolen in a couple of hours. Singapore, very online community, the first thing that happened is they all opened their phones up and bang, checked their bank balance. They had 3 months of traffic within 1 hour. And the estate wasn't set up for it. It wasn't able to cope with that volume of flash crowd, and everything went down. And obviously that had a huge reputational risk. It also meant they were fined and they had to go up in front of Parliament. So there was a lot of sort of collateral damage associated with that. But it was a flash crowd. It wasn't a DDoS attack. It wasn't anything else. It was just about scaling that current design to make sure it fits in with the potential of what can happen.
Okay. There have been lots of kind of high-profile breaches, it seems, recently. When the worst has happened, how do you plan for and how do you react to the potential reputational risk?
Yeah, we always want to hope for the best and plan for the worst. And we'll always try and put in as much mitigation and as much prevention as possible. But there is going to be a time when it's going to happen, a breach is going to happen. We are going to have to get out there and start interacting with the press, with the public, to try and address the concerns and to allay any reputational damage. And I think we've seen in the past how badly planned incident response can severely impact a brand. When an incident does happen, you need to make sure that all the information given out to all the parties is the same and it's accurate. You need to have your PR team, who are fundamentally responsible for the reputational of the organisation. You want to make sure that they're talking with the same information as your customer service team. If they've got different information and your customer's getting different information from what your PR team is saying, that's going to spout uncertainty and lead to bad press. Similarly, you want to make sure that your lawyers are fully briefed of what the scope would be. You need to understand what you need to be talking to the ICO or the equivalent in your jurisdiction. You need to understand what evidence you need to be gathering. All of this needs to be planned out. This needs to be done. Ideally, do it as part of a tabletop drill so you can understand exactly whose responsibilities and who does what and at what time, and make sure that, for example, you don't want to be going out on day one saying we've only lost a few hundred records, don't worry, everything's fine, and going out 2 days later saying, yeah, we actually meant 20 million. That's always going to come out as bad, because it means, well, we didn't trust you the first time, now do we trust you the second time?
Yep. In terms of regulation, it seems like PSD2 would be most relevant here. Are financial institutions coming to Akamai to kind of solve challenges around that?
Absolutely. I mean, Akamai has been working with lots of the largest financial institutions in the world for a number of years, and this is one of the things they're now coming to us saying, okay, we've deployed our security solutions, and now we want to sort of scale our delivery systems. And PSD2 and open banking is going to be a very interesting challenge on how that scales. The adoption of open banking has been debatable in its success at the moment, but it's you can see from the number of apps that are being created that there's a huge potential there, and that huge potential means a huge amount of traffic. And if the ASPSPs aren't fully scoped and scaled, then they could be in a situation where it could impact their end customers. And an example of being, and it's not directly related into PSD2, but the value is still the same. I had to recently buy a new fitness tracker, and that fitness tracker I wanted to have NFC on it. So as I'm going through London and pushing my 2-year-old in his pram, it means I don't have to fish out a credit card or whatever. I can just tap and go. Makes it a lot easier. Unfortunately, my bank didn't support it, and neither did any of the other high street banks. So I had to go to a challenger bank. The challenger bank, I sat down on a Sunday afternoon. An hour later, I was online. Everything was good. I had my account, and I then found out that, not only can I use it for my NFC transactions, I can also use it for on my fitness tracker. I can also use it for when I go abroad and take money out, and I get a better rate. I can also use it for transactions, and I get a better rate. So now there's a huge different additional services I'm getting on my Challenge Bank card that I wasn't getting on my High Street Bank. So I'm taking all of those services away from my High Street Bank because they couldn't provide me the connectivity I needed for my killer app. And now this is what could happen if the main ASPSPs don't provide full functionality and full availability for all the TPPs that want to come in, because as those apps become more prominent, as they become more and more compelling, people will expect their high street banks and those financial institutions to be fully and available to them.
Yep. I guess finally, are there any trends within financial services cloud adoption that you see kind of emerging at the moment, and how is Akamai responding to them?
Yes, I mean, there's financial services has always been a very prevalent target for many cyber criminals, and we see classic examples of DDoS attacks against financial institutions. We protect many different verticals, but financial services always see a higher average attack vector in terms of bits per second. They also see a higher average attack vector in terms of packets per second, and also the frequency is particularly high as well. Phishing attacks. We did a survey last year, and all of the unique organizations that we were tracking individual phishing domains for, over 50% were directly impersonating financial institutions. So the focus on the financial institution from a phishing perspective is massive. We're also seeing a lot of interest around things like MageCart. There's quite a lot of different individual MageCart groups that are out there at the moment, and a lot of the banks are looking at how they can work with organizations to help protect their users, to help protect their customers from these in-browser attacks. And then lastly, probably like user recognition. This is really getting into the fraud aspect of when a user's creds have been compromised. How can we provide additional information to say, actually, this username and password, even though it's being inputted by a human being, it's not the human being of that actual user, because we can profile it. We can say that this is a different location, it's a different browser, there's something anomalous about it. We need to do step-up authentication and start doing additional challenges.
Okay, that's really interesting. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you very much indeed, I enjoyed it.